Hi, my name is Josie Beavers, and my presentation for Anthropology 278, Scientific Racism, focuses on racism and the Hitler Youth Program before, during, and after World War II. I exported this video from a PowerPoint that I made, so it's going to play the videos before the audio. So just bear with me on that. Thanks, enjoy.
Ihr müsst euch schon in jüngsten Jahren zu diesem Begriff der Ehre bekennen. In unseren Augen, da muss der deutsche Junge der Zukunft blank und rank sein, flink wie Windhunde, zäh wie Leder und hart wie Kruppstahl. Was wir uns unter der deutschen Jugend der Zukunft wünschen, ist etwas anderes, als das die Vergangenheit sich gewünscht hat. Wir müssen einen neuen Menschen erziehen. Was es uns gelang, dem deutschen Volk eine neue Idee zu geben und dieses Volk in diese Idee zu einen und zu einer neuen Lebensform zu führen. Dies ist die größte Tat dieses Jahrhunderts für unser Volk. Erst einmal in der Geschichte unseres Volkes wird ein Reich gebaut aufgrund des Willens des Volkes selbst. Ich will dabei in Zukunft nichts anderes sein, als was ich in der Vergangenheit war. Warner meines Volkes, Lehrer meines Volkes und Erführer meines Volkes.
The Hitler Youth Program, called the Hitler Jugend, first formed in 1922 as a proto-Nazi youth program called the Jugendbund. It was formed to train future German soldiers, much like the later Hitler Jugend, but was wholly voluntary. As Hitler rose through political ranks after discharging from the Austrian army where Hitler was a citizen, he became a member of the National Socialist German Workers' Party. After serving a little over a year in prison for high treason after attempting to stage a coup, Hitler returned to politics and became Chancellor of Germany in 1933. Within 2 months, Hitler gained dictatorial powers resulting from the Enabling Act, which was passed by the Nazi-controlled Reichstag. Hitler then immediately disbanded or Nazified any German institutions, including youth organizations, leaving only the Hitler Youth. Hitler Youth activities emphasized the training of body over mind, and turned every activity into some kind of competition. Over the years, the Hitler Youth Organization would gradually supplant the traditional elementary and secondary school system and become the main force educating German youth. And the quality of that education only got worse. Students emerging from the elite Adolf Hitler schools were in superb physical condition and thoroughly drilled in Nazi ideology, but lacked basic skills in math and science. Biology, for example, had been completely corrupted to advance Nazi racial doctrine. Hitler saw Germany's children as its most precious resource, as they were to become the future soldiers and leaders of the 1,000-year Reich. These future Aryan supermen, as Hitler states in the video clip on the right side of the screen, had to be swift as greyhounds, tough as leather, and hard as steel. They were taught the principle, one people, one Reich, one Führer, which united them under Hitler's National Socialist regime. He also taught them anti-Semitic, anti-communist, and other Nazi ideologies in the place of more academic studies. The brutality of the physical fitness training, often 2 hours every day for young children, was grueling. Children participated in field exercises, like Capture the Flag and Cowboys and Indians. Each child wore an armband which, when torn off, symbolically killed the child. They were also encouraged to box each other and increase aggressiveness. Hitler hoped this would yield, quote, violently active, dominating, brutal youth, indifferent to pain, without weakness and tenderness. By 1936, the number of Hitler Youth children stood at 4 million. By that time, it had become all but compulsory to join the Hitler Youth. Youths could avoid doing any active service if they paid a fee, but this became impossible after World War II began in 1939. The Hitler Youth catered to children from 10 to 18 years old. There were separate organizations for boys and girls, and each organization was split into two groups, one group from 10 to 14 and another group from 14 to 18. The task of the boys section was to prepare the boys for military service. For girls, the organization prepared them for motherhood. On April 20th, Hitler's birthday, a ceremony was held inside the ancient Marienburg castle of the Teutonic Order. The ceremony was organized by Baldur von Schirach, the leader of the Hitler Youth program, as a gift for the Führer. 10-year-old boys entered the Jungvolk by swearing the following oath. In the presence of this blood banner which represents our Führer, I swear to devote all my energies and my strength to the savior of our country, Adolf Hitler. I am willing and ready to give up my life for him, so help me God. Boys at 10 joined the Jungvolk until the age of 14, when they transferred to the Hitler Jugend until the age of 18. After first joining the organization, the boys of the Jungvolk spent a few months on probation while undergoing training by older Hitler Jugend members. A test was then given in which they had to answer basic questions concerning Hitler's life and the history of the Nazi Party. They also had to prove physical fitness by running 60 meters in 12 seconds and take part in a cross-country hike that lasted a day and a half. A courage test was then given, such as jumping from a first or second-story ledge into a large canvas held by older Hitler Jugend members. After passing all of the tests, each boy was entitled to wear the brown shirt bearing the Jungvolk insignia with a leather shoulder strap, and the coveted Hitler Youth dagger bearing the inscription Blut und Ehre, or Blood and Honor. The activities of the older Hitler Jugend consisted of military athletics, including marching, bayonet drill, grenade throwing, trench digging, use of dugouts, how to get under barbed wire, and pistol shooting. Girls, however, at the age of 10, joined the Jung Mädelbund, or the League of Young Girls. Girls had to be able to run 60 meters in 14 seconds, throw a ball 12 meters, complete a 2-hour march, swim 100 meters, and know how to make a bed. Once the girls turned 18, they belonged to the BDM, or the Bund Deutscher Mädel. The primary role of young females in Nazi Germany was to give birth to healthy, racially pure boys to become future German soldiers. BDM girls were assigned to help care for wounded soldiers in hospitals, to help in kindergartens, and to assist households with large families. They also stood on railway platforms offering encouragement and refreshments to army troops departing for the front. The BDM girls were also extensively educated on the dangers of racial defilement and to avoid sleeping with men who did not resemble Hitler's ideal Aryan man. The new education of the German youth emphasized the subject of history, in which Nazi themes of racial struggle and German pride were exaggerated. It is the task of the racial state, Hitler declared, to ensure that at long last world history will be written, and that within its context the racial question will be elevated to the dominant position, so that a generation will emerge capable of facing the final and decisive decisions on this globe. Racial indoctrination in the classroom included teaching young children how to spot a Jew by describing the physical traits which Nazis believed were associated with inferior peoples. This is something like what's shown on the right of the screen. In some classrooms where Jews were still present before they were barred from all German schools in 1938, a Jewish child would be brought to the front of the class as an example. The teacher would then use a pointer, highlighting certain facial characteristics. Education in the Third Reich served to indoctrinate students with the National Socialist worldview. Nazi scholars and educators glorified Nordic and other Aryan races while denigrating Jews and other so-called inferior peoples as parasitic, quote, bastard races, end quote, incapable of creating culture or civilization, very similar to how American scientists viewed African Americans around the same time. After 1933, the Nazi regime purged the public school system of teachers deemed to be Jews or not fully supportive of the Nazi Party. Most educators, however, remained in their posts and joined the National Socialist Teachers League. 97% of all public school teachers, some 300,000, had joined the league by 1936. Schools played an important role in spreading Nazi ideas to German youth. In the classroom and in the Hitler Youth, instruction aimed to produce race-conscious, obedient, self-sacrificing Germans who would be willing to die for the Führer and fatherland. While censors removed some books from the classroom, German educators introduced new textbooks that taught students love for Hitler, obedience to state authority, militarism, racism, and anti-Semitism. Mein Kampf, Hitler's autobiography that he wrote in prison, became a primary text for the German youth in classrooms. Der Giftpilz, shown in the bottom pictures, was an anti-Semitic Nazi children's book which compared Jews to poisonous mushrooms which needed to be avoided or exterminated. The author of Der Giftpilz, Julius Streicher, concludes his story with a message for Germany's children. German youth must learn to recognize the Jewish poison mushroom. They must learn what a danger the Jew is for the German Volk and for the rest of the world. They must learn that the Jewish problem involves the destiny of us all. The following tales tell the truth about the Jewish poison mushroom. They show the many shapes the Jew assumes. They show the depravity and baseness of the Jewish race. They show the Jew for what he really is, the devil in human form. Streicher was the creator of Germany's most anti-Semitic newspaper, Der Stürmer, whose slogan was, Die Juden sind unser Unglück, or The Jews are our misfortune. He was later tried and executed for war crimes. Children were also subjected to anthropometric measurements by SS officers in order to determine whether or not they were full Aryan. The SS would hold an eye color chart up to the faces of children and determine if they were an acceptable Aryan color, and also take craniometric measurements to weed out any children who had non-Nordic features.
What makes a Nazi? How does he get that way? Well, let's look into the process. To begin with, Nazi control over a German child starts as soon as it's born. A young German couple has come to register the birth of their son.
Heil Hitler.
Heil Hitler.
Heil Hitler!
Herr Standesbeamte, wir möchten unseren Jungen anmelden. Unseren Erstgeborenen.
Gib alle Geburtsscheine.
Ja, hier sind unsere Geburtsscheine, die Geburtsscheine unserer Eltern.
Those documents are birth certificates, all the way back to their great-grandparents, proving, of course, that they are pure Aryan.
Wir möchten auch gern wissen, ob wir
The mother wants to call her son Hans.
Dieses Verzeichnis enthält alle männlichen Namen, die für Kinder
Here's the verboten list. Hans seems to be okay for the time being.
Hier ist der erbliche Ausweis, den Sie mal bei sich haben müssen.
This is their hereditary passport, with space for 12 future children. A subtle hint. Germany needs soldiers.
Fürs deutsche Vaterland. Ich überreiche Ihnen ein wertvolles Geschenk von unserem Führer.
As a reward, they get a copy of Germany's bestseller. Now let's see what happens to one of Hitler's children. Kindergarten, and little Hans learns the fairy tales of the new order. Remember the story of the Sleeping Beauty? Hans was taught that the Wicked Witch was democracy. And Sleeping Beauty, who can she be? Aha, here comes the prince. The prince is victorious. Democracy has fled. The prince breaks the magic spell with a kiss. The beautiful princess is Germany. the brave, handsome knight? You know who he is.
Heil Hitler!
Heil Hitler! Heil! Na heil Spratka! Na heil Svirigora Tivira Postira! Na heil Tibra and Livervoice!
Heil Hitler! Heil Hitler!
Na Heinz! Na Reiching Heistner! Na Heistiger Gatja Blendetze! Na Heil na Schweinstunk!
Heil Hitler! Heil Hitler!
Heil! 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 Heil!
The moral of this Nazi fairy tale seems to be that Hitler got Germany on her feet, climbed into the saddle, and took her for a ride. The distortion of this tale has its purpose in molding the young Nazi mind. Hitler becomes Hans's idol.
Sieg Heil! Sieg Heil! Sieg Heil!
But one day, Hans became sick. His mother is praying that her son get well. She knows that the unfit are taken away by the state and are never heard of again.
Muss kräftig sein. Sie holen die Schwachen fort und niemand weiß, was aus ihnen wird.
Heil Hitler!
Heil Hitler.
Was ist denn schon wieder los mit Hans? Ist er denn schon wieder krank? Was hat er denn?
Mutter!
Ja.
Sie verwöhnen den Jungen. Aus dem wird nie ein guter Soldat. Sollte aus Hans ein untauglicher Schwächling werden. Sie wissen ja wohl, was ich meine. Nächstes Mal erwarte ich einen besseren Bericht. Dieser sentimentale Quatsch muss aufhören. Das bitte ich mir aus. Heil Hitler!
This Superman has just reminded Hans's mother that unless this mollycoddling stops, the state will have to step in and take over.
Ich schwöre, bedingungslosen Gehorsam für den Führer des Deutschen Reiches.
Hans recovered. Back in school, he's giving his daily pledge to fight, obey, and die for his Führer, which pleases the Führer very much. And Herr Goering. And Herr Goebbels, too.
Sehr gut, sehr gut. Und nun, Kinder, werden wir unsere Naturkundestunde halten.
Hans's school teacher is about to give the class a little lesson in natural
Ich
history.
jetzt einen Hasen. Und nun zeichne ich einen Fuchs. Nun passt gut auf, was jetzt hier passiert.
Now let's see what they'll learn from this little lesson.
Wer kann mir sagen, was wir daraus lernen können? Hans?
Das arme Häschen.
He said the poor rabbit. Is he out of his mind?
Donnerwetter noch mal! Dummkopf! Was für eine blöde Antwort ist denn das? Geh in die Ecke! Was? 1, 2, 3! 1, 2, 3! Rauf auf den Stuhl!
What would the Führer think of such a stupid answer? What would Herr Goering say? And Herr Goebbels?
Dummkopf! Wer kann mir nur die richtige Antwort geben?
Now then, who can give the correct answer?
Ich weiß! Es zeigt uns, dass die Welt den Starken gehört!
The world belongs to the strong
Und dem Brutalen!
and to the brutal.
Der Hase ist schwach und feige und verdient.
The rabbit is a coward and deserves to die. They spit on the rabbit. Nice kids.
Gut! Gut! Ausgezeichnet! Und nun, Hans, was denkst du jetzt von dem armen Häschen?
Ich hasse es! Es ist
He
ein
hates the rabbit. There's no room for weaklings. Hans is learning fast. My, how he hates that rabbit.
Ich hasse ihn!
So, das ist besser.
Hans has come around to the correct Nazi way of thinking. Nice going, eh, Adolf?
Ja, Unsere Naturkunde lehrt uns, dass Deutschland...
Yes, this lesson is the basis for the Nazi creed. For Germany will likewise destroy all weak and cowardly nations.
Wir sind die nordische Rasse. Alle anderen Völker werden unsere Sklaven sein.
Germans are a super race. All others will be slaves.
Wir sind unübertrefflich. Wir fürchten niemand.
Germans are unconquerable. They fear no one. Listen to the fanatic cry.
Heute gehört uns Deutschland. Morgen die ganze Welt.
Today we own Germany. Tomorrow, the whole world. Hans is now ready for the higher education, as decreed by the Führer. Marching and hiling and marching, Hans grows up. In him is planted no seed of laughter, hope, tolerance, or mercy. For him only hiling and marching and hiling as the years grind on. Manhood finds him still hiling and marching, but the grim years of regimentation have done their work. Now he's a good Nazi. He sees no more than the party wants him to. He says nothing but what the party wants him to say. And he does nothing but what the party wants him to do. And so he marches on with his millions of comrades, trampling on the rights of others. For now his education is complete. His education for death.
This video is something someone made on YouTube, and it's set to the song Unsere Fahne flattert uns voran. It has English subtitles, so you can follow along. It was basically the main anthem of the Hitler Jugend, and they would sing it while performing marching exercises. It's also set to some great footage of the Hitler Jugend performing these physical exercises, so it's just a really cool video. The takeaway message of the song is basically to follow Hitler's orders and to ensure Germany's victory over her enemies, even if it costs you your life or the life of someone else. This mentality fueled the vengeful spirit of Hitler and his Hitler Jugend after Germany's humiliation in the First World War. To conquer all others who stand in the Third Reich's path, and to produce a master race of pure Aryan men who would rule the world for 1,000 years. Keep in mind that these kids were younger than most of us, ranging only from 14 to 18 years old. Watch the video and maybe compare it to some American patriotic songs you've heard, and listen for any similarities, maybe. The Hitler Jugend, before the war, mostly participated through marches and rallies, where they would sing songs of the Nazi Party that depicted Hitler as a demigod and condemned all Jewish peoples. Here are a few lyrics I could find from a couple of different Hitler Jugend marching songs. One song, which I haven't listed in the slide, is called Deutschland erwachen, which is something like Germany Awaken. Its lyrics go, Germany awake from your nightmare, give foreign Jews no place in your Reich. We will fight for your resurgence, Aryan blood shall never perish. All these hypocrites, we throw them out, Judea leave our German house. If the native soil is clean and pure, we united and happy will be. We are the fighters of the NSDAP, true Germans in heart, in battles firm and tough. To the swastika devoted we are. Hail our Hitler, hail Hitler to thee. I'd rather not recite all of these other anti-Semitic lyrics, but you can read them for yourself. Children as young as 10 years old would have been marching around and singing these words. It's kind of hard to imagine. Anyways, I know I've posted a lot of videos already, but I just found so many great ones. Here's another really, really short 1-minute video of the Hitler Jugend marching. So click on the video to the right if you're interested. Kristallnacht, literally meaning Night of Crystal, is often referred to as the Night of Broken Glass. The name refers to the wave of violent anti-Jewish pogroms which took place on November 9th and 10th in 1938. Although most people assume that this took place only in Germany, it also took place in annexed Austria and parts of the Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia that were recently occupied by German troops. The name Night of Broken Glass refers to the shards of shattered glass that lined the streets of Germany in the wake of the pogrom. The broken glass came from the windows of Jewish synagogues, Jewish homes, and Jewish-owned businesses which were plundered and destroyed during the violence. The anti-Semitic violence was almost entirely carried out by members of the SA and the Hitler Jugend. I had been taught about Kristallnacht in high school, but I never knew the entire story behind the event. Turns out, after the violence ended on November 10th, German officials stated that the pogrom was a spontaneous outburst of public sentiment in response to the assassination of a man named Ernst vom Rath. Vom Rath is pictured in the bottom right-hand corner of the slide. Vom Rath was a German embassy official who was stationed in Paris. A few days prior to Kristallnacht, German authorities had expelled thousands of Jews of Polish citizenship living in Germany. On November 7th, 1938, a 17-year-old Polish Jew named Herschel Greenspan had received news that his parents, who were residents in Germany since 1911, were among the Jews expelled from Germany. Greenspan's picture is immediately to the left of Vom Rath's picture. Greenspan was already living illegally in Paris himself, and out of an act of desperation, he apparently sought revenge for his family by appearing at the German embassy and shooting the diplomatic official who was assigned to assist him, who was Ernst vom Rath. Vom Rath died of his injuries 2 days later, on November 9th, and was made into a martyr for the German peoples, who were now surer than ever that the Jews were an evil race. Many of the SA and Hitler-Jugend members responsible for the violence of Kristallnacht dressed in civilians' clothes in order to make the pogrom appear more like an outraged public reaction. The rioters destroyed about 267 synagogues throughout Germany, Austria, and the Sudetenland. Many synagogues burned throughout the night in full view of the public and of local firefighters who had received orders to intervene only to prevent flames from spreading to nearby buildings. The SA and Hitler Youth members across the country shattered the shop windows of an estimated 7,500 Jewish-owned commercial establishments and looted their wares. The picture in the top right-hand corner of the slide shows the smashed window of a Jewish shop. Jewish cemeteries also became a particular object of desecration in many regions. The pogrom proved especially destructive in Berlin and Vienna, which were home to the two largest Jewish communities in the German Reich. Mobs of German officers roamed the streets, attacking Jews in their own homes and forcing Jews they encountered to perform acts of public humiliation. Kristallnacht claimed the lives of at least 91 Jews between the 9th and 10th of November. As the pogrom spread, units of the SS and Gestapo, which were the German secret state police, followed instructions to arrest any Jewish males they found, which totaled about 30,000, and transferred most of them from local prisons to concentration camps. Significantly, Kristallnacht marked the first instance in which the Nazi regime incarcerated Jews on a massive scale simply on the basis of their ethnicity. Hundreds of Jewish men died in the camps as a result of the brutal treatment that they endured.
Der Führer empfängt in seinem Hauptquartier den Reichsjugendführer Axmann mit einer Abordnung von 20 Hitlerjungen, die sich bei der Verteidigung ihrer Heimat besonders bewährt haben und dafür mit dem Eisernen Kreuz ausgezeichnet wurden. Mit diesen 20 Jungen ist vor dem Führer symbolisch die deutsche Jugend angetreten, die als treuer Helfer unserer Soldaten und des Volkssturms mutig und unerschrocken im höchsten Einsatz steht. Der Führer lässt sich von den Jungen ihre Erlebnisse schildern.
Ich habe zunächst mit 13 meiner Kameraden unter dem Befehl unseres Bandführers am Stadtrand von Hindenburg West gelegen. Diesen sollten wir gegen einbrechende feindliche Panzer sichern. Als diese dann aus der Richtung Gleiwitz am 24. Januar anrollten, teilte der Bandführer uns in 2 Gruppen ein und während er mit der einen gegen die Panzer vor, um sie selbst anzugreifen, gaben wir anderen ihm den Feuerschutz. Unser Bandführer hat 3 Panzer abgeschossen und ist dann leider bei der Vernichtung des 4. gefallen. Nachdem wir seinen Tod festgestellt hatten, mussten wir uns aus taktischen Gründen auf einen Eisenbahn zurückziehen Und dort habe ich dann am Abend die unter diesem hindurchführende Straße von Gleiwitz nach Hindenburg, die den Zugang zur Stadt bildete, gesprengt.
Ich war bei unserem ersten Angriff als Befehl des Bandführers als Melder eingesetzt. Ich musste eine sehr wichtige Meldung zu den Sturmgeschützen zurückbringen und diese heranziehen. Diese kamen dann auch nach und so ermöglichten sie uns das Eindringen in das vom Feind besetzte Dorf und so hoben wir die Bereitstellung auf.
Als der Russe näher an Laubern heranrückte, habe ich mich dem Kampfkommandanten von Laubern freiwillig als Melder zur Verfügung gestellt. Meine Aufgabe bestand darin, Meldungen zu den einzelnen Kompaniegefechtsständen zu bringen. Außerdem habe ich oftmals Panzerfäuste in Verklärung in die Hauptkampflinie geschafft. Die Panzerfäuste habe ich auf Leiterwagen oder kaum unter feindlichem Beschuss in die Haarkeile geschafft.
At the start of the war, only Hitlerjugend over the age of 18 were drafted into the German armed forces. However, the German army became increasingly desperate after around 1941. At the onset of the war, the Hitler Youth totaled around 8.8 million. 6 years of war would follow, with the full participation of the Hitler Youth, eventually down to the youngest child. German officials eliminated the strict division between the Jungvolk, which were the boys aged 10 to 14, and the actual Hitlerjugend, which were the boys aged 14 to 18. This created one large group of Hitlerjugend aged 10 to 18, who were then placed under the immediate supervision of the Wehrmacht, or the German army. They learned how to handle German infantry weapons, including various pistols, machine guns, hand grenades, and Panzerfausts, which were basically German bazookas. The youngest children were often given these Panzerfausts because they did not require much skill in aiming, and were then instructed to use them against Russian tanks. When the Russians encountered these young boys wearing oversized military garb and wielding these Panzerfausts, they gave them the nickname Bazooka Boys. By January 1943, all anti-aircraft armories were operated by Hitler Youth boys and girls. This included the operation of flat guns, which are pictured in the bottom right-hand corner of the slide. Flat guns were used to shoot small metal shrapnels at oncoming planes in hopes of basically blowing them out of the sky. Here's one last short video clip. It's of Hitler's last public appearance, which was when he was awarding the Iron Cross to small children for the defense of Berlin against Russian tanks. The Iron Cross is a coveted German military medal, and you can see one on the kid in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Just 10 days after this video footage was taken, Hitler committed suicide in his bunker as the Russian army closed in on Berlin. On May 7, 1945, Germany unconditionally surrendered, thus ending the war. Germany and much of Europe lay in absolute ruins following Hitler's war, which is considered to be the most destructive conflict in the history of humanity. An estimated 50 million people died during World War II. Out of the 9 million Jews living in Europe prior to the Holocaust, 4 to 5 million were killed in the German concentration camps. Allied soldiers were horrified at what they found when they began the liberation of concentration camps on the Western Front. American soldiers made a practice of forcing captured Hitler Youths and nearby townspeople to view the carnage inside liberated camps up close, and also made them bury piles of decomposing, emaciated corpses. Germans not living near the camps, especially young people, were later forced to watch Allied documentary films at their local theaters. The German SS was declared a criminal organization, and Allied soldiers began hunting down all surviving Nazi leaders all over Germany. These were known as the Nuremberg Trials. The Hitler Youth Organization, however, was written off by the Allies as consisting of misled young people. Therefore, as a group, its members were not targeted for prosecution. German schools opened again in October of 1945. Because the Hitlerjugend had stopped the teaching of normal science, math, and literature, the German youth were very behind on their basic education. Most Hitlerjugend leapt at the opportunity to resume their childhood and forget the horrors of the war and of Hitler's Nazi regime. Most Hitlerjugend claimed to have had no idea of the mass genocide of Jewish people taking place in German concentration camps, and, although admit to holding strong anti-Semitic values, claim that they would have never advocated the killing of Jews on such a massive scale. One surviving Hitler Youth member, Alphonse Heck, gives a quote in the last bullet point of the slide. This quote, to me, conveys the guilt that most Hitler Youth members must have had after realizing that Adolf Hitler, the man they worshipped and would have died for, was nothing more than a crazed lunatic who hid from them the murder of millions of innocent people. Thanks for watching my presentation.